So, first of all, what do I mean by a conservative Christian? So, primarily, I mean a theological conservative, holding to Christian orthodoxy like the Nicene Creed, the Apostles' Creed, and the rest of theological conservative values like biblical inerrancy. But that also includes things that are very explicitly taught in the Bible, like the sinfulness of homosexuality. These are important to Christianity because they are inherent values of Christianity that have always been present historically and will always be present because that is the nature of the church, to preserve these values that God has ordained. So, obviously, the biggest element of that when it comes to socializing with other people in this world is homosexuality. The idea that you believe homosexuality to be a sin is demonized massively. And this, while it is not the only thing that causes a divide, this is certainly the biggest one. I have made long friends with a lot of people, only for them to immediately act disgusted at the fact that I say, yeah, homosexuality is a sin. And I have openly had those same long term friends tell me that they would not feel comfortable supporting me or associating with me if they knew that beforehand. And this has always caused something that I have had to manage, where I feel this sense of almost lingering paranoia in the back of my mind, where I have to wonder, how are these people going to react when they eventually learn about my values? So obviously, I try my best to make it clear right away. I make it very clear that I am a Christian, that I am extraordinarily traditional in my values, and that I care a lot about this religion. And I then hope that they can infer that. You can't just simply go around meeting to people and say, "Hey, I don't like the gays." Like that's not gonna go well, believe it or not. You're gonna come off as pretty weird, right? That topic is going to come up eventually, and it will come up pretty quickly. But if one of the first things that you say to people is that, you're not really going to make any success in talking to anyone. So, has it worked? Not really, because it seems like people don't understand how important this theological and social conservatism is to Christianity. They will often assume by default, even if someone is very religious, that if they are not constantly throwing fits and being angry and spreading hatred towards everyone around them, then clearly they must support homosexuality, LGBTQ, and all of this. Clearly they must be a pretty socially liberal person, because they fill in that gap based off of preconceived notions. They believe that anyone who disagrees with homosexuality and condemns it as sinful is this person that just wants to go around spreading hatred to everyone in the LGBTQ community. And it is literally just crucifying others, when that's not true. Most people who are theological conservative in this way are not going around spreading hate and having banners talking about killing the gays or something. This narrative is just a caricature, but it is a very prevalent one. And I've noticed that that has caused a very, very, very noticeable issue where it's almost like no matter how much I stress that I am extremely religious, it's still a shock almost that they are actually hearing someone that they've known for so long and know as a kind person, like a good friend, say homosexuality is a sin. Because to them, to most people, in fact, it seems like they would be able to spot out that I believed this. Like, I would act different than them, that I would be completely different in my attitude and demeanor, and to be more angry and hateful, when that's just simply not true. In fact, it's the opposite. And when it comes to my values, when I am most in touch with my values, I find myself being more patient and caring with people. And I'm not always like that because I am a sinful human being, so I struggle. But my values never cause me to feel this anger and hatred towards people. But while I could go on for ages about that, that's not really the core of what I'm here to talk about, but more so that isolation. So there was always this feeling was that I could not be sure that a friendship, relationship, or anything would work out, that any sort of relationship would work out until they knew about my values. They knew that I was a more conservative person, a traditionalist. So I would always be looking for that way to naturally work that in, to make it very obvious. And up until the point where it was very much known that I held these values, it was always, it always felt almost like gambling. Like, would I invest all this time into a relationship only for nothing to happen? Would I invest all of this time into this friendship only for them to immediately turn on me and hate me and get me ostracized from that community that I was in? How long could it last? I would oftentimes analyze these like communities that I entered to see, okay, how might they react? And on one hand, this is definitely not necessary. I don't have to be analyzing every community. I just had to simply be a part of a community, and then when it is appropriate, I make it known where I believe. And if they reject me, they reject me. That doesn't matter. I will stand true to my convictions, and I will stand true to Christ, the King, and the gospel which he preached. But this whole dichotomy between the theologically and socially conservative and the more mainstream, socially homogenous, what's the word I'm looking for? Cringe. Yeah, no, but like you know what I mean. This dichotomy between the more theologically conservative people and the socially liberal people would always create this underlying sense that I couldn't just act and socialize around other people normally. I would have to be thinking about this idea in the back of my head that as soon as we have that talk, that I might be pushed away. And in many cases, and the point that I'm leading up to here is that this would cause me to almost selectively choose who I associate with. I would have to, because logically speaking, it just makes sense, choose my battles almost. I wouldn't be able to just commit to all these friendships until unless I was sure that it would eventually be able to work out. So most of my in-depth friendships are with other theologically conservative, socially conservative Christians. And I love that. They are a great people to hang out with and make a community with. But I also don't want to live in an echo chamber. So there are people that I want to associate with on the outside. So that way I can act as a representative of Christianity to them and serve as a testament to how theological conservatives actually act, not this caricature that they've printed out for us. But when it comes to those people, I notice that it's a lot more analytical almost, where I have to be careful. I have to choose my battles. It's like a strategy, and it doesn't feel natural anymore. And I don't like that because, and I truly feel like this is a symbol of the environment, the social environment that we live in right now, where there's no room for disagreement. There's no room for ideological dialogue. It is simply, if you do not believe and affirm in these things that I believe in, homosexuality and the affirmation of transgenderism or LGBTQ as a whole, then you are clearly evil. You don't deserve to be respected by the community, and I'm not going to discuss this because you are simply wrong and there is no arguing about it. And I just think this is pretty pathetic, but it's also just kind of sad. It's just kind of sad how this discourse is completely ruining how everybody acts to each other. Because you would think, well, obviously, in my ideal society, everybody would be theologically conservative Christians who stand against these things. If these things are going to be supported, then you would at least hope that people can love each other regardless. That we aren't going to be fighting this literal war where we have to actually fight. Obviously, as Christians, we are always going to be fighting a war of the spirit. We are always going to be fighting a war against modernity, against evil, and against sin. And we should never live and coexist in a society of evil without openly speaking out against that evil. But there is a sense in that we should be able to still condemn sin, condemn sinners without hating them, without having to immediately try and crucify them. We should be able to love these people regardless. But it's like they do not have that basis that you have to also love these people that disagree with you. Because while in our religion, Christ actively tells us to love our enemies, there is no religion for them to tell them to love your enemies or to love those that disagree with you. It is simply a matter of pragmatism, of practicality, that you are to be intolerant of intolerance, quote unquote. And this has always just simply been a obstacle almost that I've had to manage as a theological conservative, social conservative Christian. There's not really much else of a point to this other than sharing my general thoughts. I just decided to open this mic and shout out into there. But let me know if you somehow are coming across this, what you think of the matters. Are you also a theological conservative? Do you have any similar thoughts, any extra thoughts? Are you a social liberal? Do you completely disagree with me, but have thoughts on this matter that you wish to share anyways? Let me know. Let's start a bit of a conversation about this. I am curious, and I'm always willing to talk. But aside from that, I think while I could talk more and more about these issues and similar matters, I'm going to leave that there for now. And I will shout back out into the microphone and into this channel more going forward if I have anything else to say. Either way, God bless you and keep you.